Equality isn't charity, it's good business. This simple truth pulses beneath the surface of America's evolving economy, a revelation long delayed yet increasingly undeniable. As the sun rises over bustling cities and quiet towns alike, a quiet revolution unfolds in boardrooms, factories, and storefronts. This is the story of how representation, once dismissed as mere idealism, has become a powerful engine of economic growth and social equity. From the earliest days of commerce in this land, diversity has been both a challenge and a promise, a complex dance of exclusion and inclusion. Today, as corporations reckon with the weight of history and the promise of the future, the business of representation reveals itself not just as moral imperative, but as a catalyst for innovation, resilience, and prosperity. Here begins our journey through the intertwined paths of economics and equity, where the true cost of exclusion gives way to the undeniable dividends of inclusion. In the 18th and 19th centuries, America's economy was built on the backs of enslaved Africans and the labor of marginalized peoples. The wealth generated was vast, but it was a wealth that excluded most from its benefits. The economic system was designed for a narrow few, where race and gender were barriers to participation and prosperity. Yet, even within these constraints, stories of resilience emerge. The black entrepreneurs carving out niches in segregated markets, women pushing the boundaries of commerce, despite legal and social restrictions. These early acts of representation sowed seeds for a broader transformation, though the full harvest would take centuries. The promise of inclusion remained a distant ideal, shadowed by systemic barriers. But as the nation industrialized and globalized, the economic logic began to shift. Businesses that embraced diversity found themselves better equipped to understand and serve a changing, diverse consumer base. The mid-20th century marks a turning point. The civil rights movement, women's liberation, and immigrant rights struggles challenged the economic status quo. Laws changed, opening doors previously closed, while cultural shifts demanded a revaluation of who belonged in the marketplace. Corporations began to recognize that ignoring half the population, or more, meant ignoring a vast reservoir of talent and purchasing power. Yet, change was uneven and met with resistance. Affirmative action policies sparked debate, seen by some as a threat to meritocracy, by others as a necessary correction to centuries of exclusion. Still, the data was clear. Diverse teams sparked creativity, attracted new customers, and boosted profits. The business case for representation was emerging, quietly but powerfully, reshaping American capitalism from within. By the 1980s and 90s, globalization introduced new complexities. Companies expanding beyond American borders faced diverse markets and multicultural workforces. Success increasingly depended on cultural competence and inclusive leadership. Silicon Valley's rise illuminated how innovation thrived when diverse minds collaborated, blending perspectives to solve complex problems. Yet, the tech boom also exposed glaring inequities. The digital divide, underrepresentation of women and minorities in STEM fields, and persistent wage gaps. The business of representation was no longer just about fairness. It became a strategic imperative. Investors, consumers, and employees began demanding accountability, pushing firms to measure diversity not as a social project, but as a key performance indicator. The seeds planted in earlier decades began to sprout into a new corporate ethos, one that linked diversity with resilience and long-term growth. Entering the 21st century, the narrative grows richer and more urgent. The Great Recession exposed vulnerabilities in an economy too narrowly conceived. Companies with diverse leadership weathered the storm better, showing adaptability rooted in varied experiences and viewpoints. Meanwhile, movements like Me Too and Black Lives Matter ignited conversations about equity across every sector. Representation expanded beyond race and gender to include disability, sexual orientation, and more, reflecting a fuller spectrum of human experience. The marketplace responded accordingly. Brands that authentically embraced diversity found loyal customers eager to support businesses aligned with their values. Social media amplified marginalized voices, holding companies accountable with unprecedented immediacy. Representation became not just a box to check, but a dynamic, ongoing commitment that drove innovation, trust, and economic vitality. Economic studies now confirm what history and experience have long suggested: diversity pays. Companies in the top quartile for racial and ethnic diversity are 35% more likely to have financial returns above their industry medians. Gender-diverse companies similarly outperform their peers. This is not coincidence. Diverse teams bring a broader range of ideas, challenge groupthink, and foster creativity. They connect more deeply with diverse customers, unlocking new markets and enhancing brand loyalty. Yet, the path to representation remains uneven. Systemic biases continue to limit access and advancement for many. Recognizing this, leading firms invest in mentorship, equitable hiring practices, and inclusive cultures, not out of obligation, but because the bottom line demands it. Representation becomes a strategic advantage, a vital ingredient in the recipe for sustainable success. The story of representation in business is also a story of community and identity. Minority-owned businesses have long served as engines of economic empowerment, creating jobs and wealth within disenfranchised neighborhoods. Historically Black, Indigenous, and immigrant entrepreneurs have built businesses that not only survive, but thrive despite systemic obstacles. Their success challenges stereotypes and expands the narrative of what American enterprise looks like. Policies supporting small businesses and access to capital recognize that economic equity requires more than inclusion on paper. It demands structural change. As these enterprises grow, they ripple outward, transforming local economies and inspiring future generations. The business of representation then is inseparable from the broader quest for equity and justice. Yet, representation is not merely a numbers game. It is a profound act of recognition, acknowledging the full humanity and potential of every individual. When companies cultivate inclusive environments, they foster belonging and unleash human potential. Employees who feel seen and valued bring their whole selves to work, igniting passion and productivity. This cultural shift reshapes organizational dynamics, breaking down silos and enabling collaboration across differences. The economic benefits are tangible: reduced turnover, higher engagement, and increased innovation. But the deeper impact is cultural and moral, reshaping corporate DNA to reflect the diversity of the society it serves. In this light, representation becomes a powerful force for transformation, both economic and social. The global pandemic of 2020 exposed stark inequities, but also accelerated the business case for diversity and inclusion. Companies that embraced flexible work, prioritized employee well-being, and listened to diverse voices navigated the crisis with greater agility and empathy. Remote work opened opportunities for underrepresented groups, challenging traditional notions of workplace inclusion. Consumers increasingly demanded that brands stand for more than profit, expecting social responsibility and justice. In this moment, representation took on renewed urgency, not as a trend, but as a foundational principle for resilience. The business of representation, forged in the crucible of crisis, emerged stronger and more vital, signaling a future where equity and economics are inextricably linked. Technology continues to reshape the landscape of representation. Artificial intelligence and data analytics offer tools to identify and reduce bias, yet they also risk perpetuating it if unchecked. Ethical stewardship becomes essential as businesses deploy these technologies. Meanwhile, digital platforms amplify diverse voices and democratize access to markets, leveling the playing field for entrepreneurs and creators from all backgrounds. The future of representation in business hinges on harnessing technology to promote equity rather than entrench inequality. This requires vigilance, transparency, and a commitment to inclusive innovation. As humanity steps further into the digital age, the business of representation evolves, reflecting the complexity and richness of the human experience across every screen and storefront. Education and workforce development emerge as critical pillars in advancing economic equity through representation. Access to quality education, training, and mentorship shapes the pipeline of talent entering the economy. Initiatives aimed at closing opportunity gaps empower individuals and communities to contribute fully and thrive. Corporate partnerships with educational institutions and community organizations foster pathways to careers in emerging industries, from green energy to biotechnology. These investments are not mere philanthropy. They are strategic commitments that build a diverse and skilled workforce essential for competitiveness in a rapidly changing economy. The business of representation, therefore, extends beyond hiring and marketing. It encompasses nurturing the human capital that drives innovation and growth. As the 21st century unfolds, the business of representation challenges us to reimagine capitalism itself. No longer can economic success be measured solely by profit margins and shareholder value. The new metrics include social impact, environmental stewardship, and the inclusivity of opportunity. Companies that lead in these areas set new standards for what it means to be successful. Their stories inspire a broader renaissance, a roots renaissance that reconnects commerce with community, history with future, and profit with purpose. This is a moment of profound possibility, where equity and economics converge to create a more just and prosperous society. The business of representation is, in essence, the business of America's future. Equality isn't charity. It's good business, proven by history, measured by data, and lived by millions striving for dignity and opportunity. The pursuit of representation is the pursuit of a more vibrant economy and a more equitable society. It honors the sacrifices and dreams of those who came before, while planting seeds for those yet to come. As we reflect on this journey, we see that representation is not a destination, but a continuous evolving commitment. It asks us to listen, learn, and lead with courage and compassion. In this ongoing story, the business of representation is the heart of America's roots renaissance, a testament to the power of inclusion to transform not only markets, but the very fabric of our shared humanity. This has been Roots Renaissance. See you in the next chapter.